Hey, welcome. It's morning. That means it's countdown to outbound. I'm Mark Hunter, the sales hunter. And hey, you know what? I've got my cup of coffee as I always do. And coming into the studio in just a minute is the sales evangelist himself, Donald Kelly. Hey, we're going to be talking about all things sales. We're going to talk a few things about outbound. So, hey, let's roll the video. Let's get Donald in the studio. Hang tight. And a big welcome to you, Donald. Welcome to the virtual studio.
Well, Mr. Mark Hunter, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hey, well, it's great because again, we hang out in the same circles, yet our circles have never really overlapped that much. So It's great to be able to connect with you. What's happening? What's happening in your world? What are you seeing happening in sales?
Man, I think it's a great time to be in sales. So many opportunities, and I think the great thing about this, we're going to look back on this in like 5 years and 10 years and say, you remember when we had the great pandemic, and then how everyone freaked out at the beginning. But what happened was it separated the wheat from the tare, so to speak, because now we saw that salespeople were to get creative and figure out a new way of doing things, and we're able to adjust and become nimble. And those that did that, they thrived. I mean, a lot of salespeople I speak to had a great year last year in spite of the challenges that were around. And I think companies just found ways to be nimble and realized that there are still opportunities there. And I think a huge part of that was just the mindset, the way that we thought. The sellers that had a limited mindset, they just didn't really perform. And the ones who believe there's still opportunities out there, they went out and made things happen. And if their industry didn't work so well, they pivoted and adjusted. And it's fascinating to see that. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happened in the sales history books in 5 to 10 years.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I think not just the sales history books, but in business and everything. I mean, this same thing happened during, and I can now use the term because we've gone through the pandemic. So the recession we had, I can now say, called it the great, I could never say the word recession. But if you think about it, in the recession back in 2009 or whatever it was, same thing happened. It really called out a lot of, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but the weak.
Yeah.
And we all came out of it much, much stronger. And I think this pandemic that we're experiencing here, hopefully we're on the tail end of it, is definitely, again, really helping people to sharpen their swords, to really know how to go into battle and make sales. And I don't mean battle in a negative term, but really to be able to gear up and take sales to the next level, because sales more than ever is more important. So talk to us a little about how do people stay nimble to be able to take the most advantage of what's happening right now in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the first thing, I love the idea of the platinum rule. And the platinum rule simply states, treat others the way that they would like to be treated, rather than the golden rule that says treat others the way that you would like to be treated. And I think the first piece when it comes towards that idea of being nimble is your clients now are doing business in such a different way. And for the sellers who can adapt towards that, because you've seen it before, Mark, you've heard those sellers say, well, if I can get with them in person, I can sit down and talk to them, then I can close the deal. Well, reality check is that most people are probably not going to. Some situations will open up back like that, but some people got really used to the idea of being behind the screen and being if you're in California, you don't need to get on a plane. They like to just be able to have a quick call and do that meeting with you. Some will change, but if you're in Texas, I know Texans love to see the white in your eyes, but for the most part, a lot of people will have that type of scenario. And are we willing to circumvent our own comfort for the comfort of and well-being of the client, the way that they would like to be treated, and treat them that way? I think that's the very first thing that we need to get past and to be successful. Number two, one of the other things too, there's so many stats on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn just came out with their new basically state of LinkedIn. It's a lot of the data that they collected over the last year, and it's fascinating, right? And one of the things that I'm really fascinated for, and I look at, is how many people are still not taking advantage of LinkedIn to utilize it as an opportunity for business development. The idea, and I'm not one of those people who say, well, this is the only way you need to do outbound. There's so many different ways you can connect with prospects. The key, though, is that if you were a one-trick pony in the past, hopefully the pandemic taught you, you can try different ways to be able to make that happen. And those are two that very, very from the top that you could take advantage of. Daniel Disney has his book that came out recently on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn and social selling strategies. And he's speaking at Outbound as well. And I'm excited for his session because he just has so much information on that. And I think those are two things that I can tell you right off the bat that we can take advantage of. And then also utilizing video components with that. Like even on a video outreach, I'm not saying that's the only, again, not the one idea of one trick pony, but even our organization. And my BDRs are right out here. And one of the things that they'll do, they'll send emails, they'll use LinkedIn to connect with a prospect. Then they'll send an email to them. And then later on in that sequence, maybe the second or third one, they send a video to them. And we've seen that aspect of it work. So we're using a component of a lot of things. When they didn't necessarily use video that much before, they're gravitating toward it because they got used to it through this difficult time through the pandemic.
Man, I'll tell you what, you have just dumped a ton of wisdom there. And people, back up this video and listen to this last couple minutes again, because what was Donald sharing with you? Sharing different strategies. And this is what I really find that the pandemic has done. I think it's made us a lot more efficient. Yeah. I get far more done now than I ever got done before. And it's kind of funny. I question, how did I ever have time to get on an airplane? How did I have time? I don't know how I did that. And it's very interesting, but I would not hesitate in the least bit to get on an airplane and go all the way across the country and have breakfast with somebody if it was a big enough of a deal. Well, now I'm saying, wait a minute, why don't we just connect by way of Zoom, connect by way of Teams, connect? And I think it's opened up so many more opportunities, but we have to be flexible enough to be able to take advantage of that. It's interesting. You were talking about LinkedIn. It really is amazing. I just saw an article this morning where there's a major investment firm. I won't say the name. You'll have to Google it yourself if you're listening or watching. But they are now telling their sales trainees no more cold calling, but they're going to be aggressively going into LinkedIn to message people. Now, I hope this doesn't create click and pitch. Yeah, you know what I'm a click and pitch. I mean, it's like
it's going to happen with some of them.
Oh, I know this. So, I mean, what I'm seeing happening now for this particular financial institution, because of the regulatory environment they're in and so forth, I get a little bit of a sense as to what they're trying to do. But here's what I find. We're really trying to say, how do we create the relationship? How do we create, and you talked about it in terms of your SDRs, your BDRs. They're out there connect, but they're creating that relationship first before you get it. And video is one of the tools.
Oh man, so true. The term we use in our training process, and it's not poor, it's POR, POR, and it's a point of reference. And if you go back to the human psychology behind this, and by the way, Mark, if anyone's listening to this and you're thinking about going into sales and you're in college, I would tell you go take a psychology course or some kind of human behavior course. I wish I'd done that in school. I learned it later on, but human behavior, everything comes back to the emotion, right? And with the idea of us being social creatures or being, creatures of our habits, if you travel outside the country, like say you go to, you're in Italy, and you see, I'm from South Florida, city guy. If I find somebody that I probably would never ever connect with on a daily basis, maybe somebody from, let's say Arkansas and the Ozarks or whatever, and they're in Italy as well, even though our path will never ever cross, the fact though, when we're here statewide, but when we are together overseas and we can say, hey, where are you from? I'm from the US. Oh, I'm from man, that's so cool. We all automatically make that connection because we want to find people who are like us, or we want to have that interaction with people who resemble or behave or have that commonality with us. And it's such a small thing, but it's so pivotal. So now when we reach out to a prospect, one of the things that our team like to use when we use that LinkedIn strategy first, we use that POR, point of reference. Two things people are going to ask you right away or say in their mind. And I give this back to David Hoffel in his book. He points this out very well. But one of the things that he points out, people are going to say, why should I listen to you? And who are you? And instantly, if I can bring down the fact that who I am, that I'm not a foe, because that goes back to our caveman days. Are you going to try to kill me? Are you going to try to are you someone that I can trust, an ally, right? So if this is the case, we want to make sure that we can build that point of reference right away. So I would say something to the nature of, Mark, hey, this is Donald. We connected on LinkedIn. We're automatically right away, you start making that connection in your brain. Like, how did I connect with this guy on LinkedIn? When did I connect with him on LinkedIn? Let me see who this guy is. Oh, I did connect with this guy on LinkedIn. Now, when I hit you up with that email or that video in that email, now it makes such a big difference. We have that at least. I overcome that first barrier, and then it leads to the opportunity of me explaining the value that I have. And I find that when you send an email, when you're not pitching on LinkedIn, but you're doing that relationship building, but you take that off to another platform, it kind of just switch that gear a little bit, and it makes sure that business happen in that email kind of thing, and then that LinkedIn component still maintain its cleanliness in that relationship. And obviously you can cross over path. But the point I'm trying to get with this is just like you're saying with this idea, go back to human nature, go back to the way that we behave and way that we interact. How can we have points of reference with our clients? How can we have something to give them that connection to? And it's the human to human connection. And even if it's something like silly, like, Mark, I heard your podcast the other day with that awesome guy named Donald. Sounds pretty cool. Naturally, you're going to say, oh, cool. That's a point of reference. Now it's going to be more than, even if I gain like 3 seconds or 5 seconds for you to at least listen to my value prop, that point of reference was able to help me to make sure that it happens. And then the other thing that you shared as well too, Mark, that I find very interesting, going back to the concept of the videos, or we kind of alluded to this, even if it's just like the fact of doing simple videos doesn't have to be in that necessarily outreach process, but like using that on LinkedIn to connect with people you already connected to. I think sometimes on LinkedIn, we're like those kids with like Pokemon cards or running around with our phone. Let me connect. Got to catch them all, Mark. Got to catch all the prospect. And then we get all these people on your LinkedIn and you don't do anything with them. Build a relationship. I mean, send somebody a message. LinkedIn give you the birthday thing already. But if I send a video saying, hey, Mark, I saw it's your birthday. Happy birthday from all of us to you. Hope you have a great birthday. I'm standing out. I'm going to be different. And now that idea, now when I send that video to you in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or an email saying, hey, Mark, it's Donald, I'm the guy who embarrassed myself sending you a happy birthday. That now makes me at least giving me that time to connect with you, because you see me as a connection rather than just as a prospect. But utilize LinkedIn as a way to not just garner your Pokemon cards, but as a way to build relationship with those people, your Pokemon cards. Come on, Mark.
I gotta call you out, because I just had a birthday a few weeks ago and I didn't get a video from you, man.
You're getting a video. You're getting a video.
Saying.
I did say a post. I did say make a post, but I didn't do my video. I need to do a video.
I had to bust your chops on that, but I love that whole POR, point of reference, because it's kind of funny as you said that, because I use what I call POE. What's your point of entry? What's your point of it? In terms of the whole strategy. You break it down even further to POR. So I really like that. Hey, man, our time is like racing.
I know, man.
Quickly past, because again, we've got to hold this to 22 minutes. So, hey, OutBound, you're going to be sharing with us at OutBound. So what's a nugget you're going to drop at? What's a mic drop moment you're going to share with us at OutBound?
So I've partnered with an organization known as the Pacific Institute back in 2018ish. Started connecting and chatting, and then we built a relationship. And the business development VP and I became friends. He's now the CEO. They do. I'll have a lot of data on neuroscience and the way that we think and behave. They wanted to create a sales program, and we partnered with that. So we come with the skill set components. One of the things that I saw last year in 2020 was one of our greatest years ever when it came towards business, was that a lot of salespeople know what to do, Mark. We saw a lot of veterans, they knew exactly what to do, but they just don't do what they know they're supposed to do. When we were able to break down the data and we were able to break down human psychology and the science behind it, we realized there are several components that really comes back down to it. And it's fascinating. So in my presentation, we're going to cover 5 things that 5 reasons that inhibit people from really doing their outbound. And this is backed by data and by science. and to make them ineffective. And one of the ones that I'm really fascinated by, one of the concept is called the reticular activating system. We talk about that, and that basically comes back down to the reticular activating system is like it's a network of cell grouping at the bottom of our brain, and it does like a filter. It's like a screen door. It lets things in or let things out. And when sometimes, especially last year, when sellers tell themselves over and over, it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. I know it sounds like it's basic, but the science is there. If I tell myself that no one is answering, there's no opportunities, that people don't like to talk to me, people don't want to hear from me on Fridays, what happens is my reticular activating system find things that then reinforces that concept. So like, say, for instance, if I tell myself my wife and I, we were looking for a car and we were having a SUV, and her sister has this RAV4. So we said, what about the RAV4? We just talked about it a few times, Mark. Then all of a sudden, it was like magical retargeting. We saw RAV4 everywhere on the road. It wasn't the fact that RAV4s weren't there before. It's the fact that my brain or my reticular activating system was pointing out to me RAV4 because it was something that was important to me. If it's important to me that people don't answer their phone, then I might find articles why Outbound doesn't work anymore. Or I might find these things that then reinforces this concept. And then I believe that. If I go on a phone now and I'm making my 10, 15, 30 calls a day, and I'm going in a call like no one's going to answer this, the thing is, it's not going to magically change, because the first sale, I was just talking to my team this morning, the first sale that you make is in your voice. If I'm listening to you and you sound like you don't believe this is going to work, then forget this. I'll say, you know what? I'm busy. Can't talk to you right now. I told you nobody wants to talk to me these days. Self-fulfilling prophecy and science prove that. And if you come to Outbound, boy, I'm going to break down this session. I'm excited for it. You're going to see it.
Preach it, preach it. Hey, what is your secret code? Because excuse me, if we say secret code, it's no longer a secret. But what is that code? Say it softly.
Donald 100.
Donald 100, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Hey, that'll save you $100 because, again, whether or not you can make it live to Atlanta, June 15th through the 18th, or participate in the virtual, which starts actually on the 13th, runs through the 18th. I tell you what, it is gold. I mean, it's I'm going to be digesting all of the sessions multiple times. That's why I love the virtual piece, because we're recording all of it and going to be able to snag it after the fact. So, hey, we got to check out of here, but do me a favor, stick around for the after the show. Okay.
Deal.
Okay. Hey, we're going to roll this video. That was a short video. You didn't run away. That was good. Hey, what's your website?
TheSalesEvangelist.com.
TheSalesEvangelist.com. And of course, your podcast is Rockstar Solid. So it's cool stuff. Hey, the Pacific Institute.
Yeah.
Was that founded by Lou Tice?
That is the one and only Lou Tice.
That is amazing. I worked with them when Lou was still alive. Lou has passed away, right?
Lou has passed away.
Yeah. In fact, Lou began life as a high school football coach.
Yeah.
And he used to come to my mom's school when my mom was a teacher.
No way.
And work with the staff. And then probably about 8 or 9 years later, because I grew up out in Seattle, which is where Lou is from. And about 8 or 9 years later, I was working for a major corporation in New York. And we brought Lou and his team in, and they revolutionized the company. So it's funny when you say the Pacific Institute. I know those people. Yeah, wow, small world. We're gonna have to connect some more on that, because I remember working with them. Oh, they were just awesome. Lou was a great guy.
Easy, and I didn't get a chance to meet Lou. This was post the Lou era, when Mark Pantiera, now who's the CEO of Pacific Institute, when he was over business development, we crossed paths through one of our friends on podcast, and it led to that opportunity. I was skeptical on, because I'm like, is this going to be like one of those new age out there kind of thing? I'm like a sales guy. Give me the raw date. Give me the good stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. It really is cool. So you are truly having fun, aren't you,
Mark? It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun right now. So I can't complain.
And I'll tell you what, there are more opportunities out there than ever before. I am it's amazed at what I see every day. And like I said, it's what your brain chooses to tell you.
It's 100%. Because one of the best stories I told people, I went into this company when I first got out of college. When I first got into software, so it was one of the third company I worked for. Not that I kept track of them, but it was a software gig. and the CEO mentioned, well, they, in the job description, they wanted somebody with 10, 15 years experience. And I wasn't going to go to this interview, but I was referred to by a friend. And I was like, shoot, I ain't got no much years. Software been around that long. They didn't want somebody with 10, 15 years trying to get Moses. And then, then I went into the meeting with the CEO, with the, I had a meeting on Thursday with the sales director, and she liked me and so forth. It was a small enough company that you met with the CEO as well. So he went to the final one. He was a closer, right? He said, Donald, why should I hire you? And the whole way out there, I got 3 people with years of experience. And I called on my experience when I was a student body president in college, how we had the most votes ever, and hustle that we did there. Called on my experience as a server, called on my experience doing door-to-door security. And I just said, listen, everything that I've done, I've been able to succeed at. If you guide me and tell me what to do, I'm going to succeed. I don't have the years of experience, but I'm Donald freaking Kelly. And I said that. Took me in. They didn't give me the AE position because, I mean, who would give a little kid early? But he put me as a inside sales BDR, and I just bust my chops. I went in there every single day. I knew there was opportunities. I believe it. I'm a faith-based individual. So I prayed, God, help me lead to those opportunities that are out there today. Somebody in the need of our services. And magic started happening. It's even if you call it whatever, you tell it mantra, but because it was in my mindset that somebody's out there to need our services today, I would get appointments. While you have these guys who were 15 years, who they did hire, unfortunately, didn't last too long, 6 months. And he was out because he didn't know how to hunt anymore. He didn't want to do that. He didn't believe in those things. Yeah. He was set in his own old ways in some ways, but I was nimble and I was willing to try stuff. I was willing to mess up, and I was hungry, as Les Brown said. So,
we got to drop in a Les Brown in here. I'll tell you what, I love Les. Yeah. And oh man, you and I are going to have to get together on a separate. I have a feeling we have a lot of common friends together. So anyway, hey, we've got to shut this thing down. But we've been talking this morning with Donald Kelly. He's the sales evangelist. And here's the deal: it's Outbound Conference. Outbound Conference is where you need to go. So hey, I want to say thanks to everybody. Thank you, Donald. Very much appreciate it.
Hey, Mark, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see you at Outbound in Atlanta and to have a good time and join some of your sessions.
And we're out of here. Take care.